It is March the 1st, 2022, and I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView. Excited to be back here again. Thank you so much for clicking on. Thank you so much for liking. Thank you so much for subscribing, and for the little chit-chats I've gotten on the side, for the gifts I've received, and all the stuff that's going on. Happy to be here every day talking about the Los Angeles Rams and what their offseason is going to look like and what it's looking like going to the future. We are, now that we're in March, we're about 2 weeks away from the official start of the 2022 season, and the Rams are going to have to get under that salary cap. That salary cap has to be at about $208 million, and there are a few bones over. And so we are now in the zone. I guess maybe we survived silly season, but we're now in the zone where we're going to be talking about who's going to restructure, who's going to get released, is Big Whit going to retire, and of course all that stuff is there. But in the meantime, while we're waiting to get there, we're going to talk Rams. Also coming off a Super Bowl season, we're going to talk some follow-up there, drafts, mock drafts, the unexpected, and why a name like Elvis Peacock still matters. And if you're a Ram fan, you might remember Elvis Peacock. So moving right along here, we're talking about the Rams, and they've been in 5 Super Bowls. And so this year is going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, because I'm getting jabs from people that are Steeler fans and other fans saying, enjoy it. You're not going to get another one. Your salary cap is too big. You got no draft picks. And again, everyone's working off the old model. They don't understand that the draft picks are commodities that you can trade and use at different times in different places and apply them to different things. And again, in the old model, make sure you're not paying too much money. But they're not understanding how contracts are written these days with voidable years, and that allow teams the flexibility to restructure these contracts where the players either get more money or their money is just spread out because they want to keep winning. So the Rams definitely are in the hunt to repeat. I don't know if anyone's going to do what the Patriots did. I think that might be a little far-fetched, but they're in the hunt. And they should remain in the hunt because they've laid a template down that looks like it's going to sustain. But it bears looking back to the previous 4 Super Bowls and what the Rams did the following season. Remember in Super Bowl 14, the Rams came close to upsetting the Steelers. Thank you for nothing, Eddie Brown. And the very next year, they came back. The team was 11-5, but they were a wild card team. The Falcons won the NFC West in those days. And that's when the Falcons were in the NFC West. And the Rams lost a wild card game in Dallas. After Super Bowl 34, the great Mike Jones tackle that stopped Tennessee, the Rams went to the wild card. I think they were at 9-7. Kurt Warner got hurt that year. Trent Green played about 5 games. Warner was playing in the playoffs, and he threw a pick, and the Rams lost to New Orleans in New Orleans. It was the Saints' first ever playoff win, and that followed up Super Bowl 34. After Super Bowl 36 and the loss to the Patriots, the Vinatieri, Tom Brady coming out party, the Rams didn't make the playoffs. After Super Bowl 53, you might remember, for all the upside of 2018, 2019 was nothing but struggle. Gurley showed some wear on his tires. Jared Goff came down to earth. They couldn't settle the center position. The defense was in some disarray, and that was Wade Phillips' last run with the Rams. And the Rams finished 9-7, but no playoffs. So just something to keep in mind as we go forward is that this idea that it's an automatic repeat, it's an automatic return to the Super Bowl. It would be highly unlikely for the Rams not to go back to the playoffs, but we should just enjoy what we got this year, hope for the best next year, and just keep our eyes focused and hoping that as the team has laid this model, this template down, that it sticks to its template. And it's when those teams break from that template, that's when everything starts to spiral or somebody moves on. Sean McVay goes to Amazon, or Les Snead decides to retire, or what's the chain of succession for Stan Kroenke? If he should pass on, who does the team pass on to? There's all sorts of variables that come into play when you think about the future of a football team. So enjoy this. You're in the club. You got 2 Super Bowl wins, 5 Super Bowl appearances. Did you ever think the Rams would have more Super Bowl appearances than the Minnesota Vikings? Remember the nightmare the Vikings were back in the day? Just saying, the Rams have had more Super Bowl appearances than the Vikings. Getting to the draft causes me to want to go back And before I do, just want to say again, thank you for clicking on. If you could hit like and subscribe, you could follow me at JoeT13B at Twitter and on Instagram, and also I'm on Facebook, or go to my website where you see FanView, which was posted yesterday, as well as From the Ram Cave, which is posted every Friday, Saturday. I'm getting it more later because I'm doing the show now. I'm getting up late Friday, early Saturday for From the Ram Cave, and that's more information on the Rams. There you can find out about my books. I am a writer and a pastor. And so this is just one of the things I do to supplement my income, and also because I'm blessed and it's a lot of fun. So getting to the draft and everything that's taking place as we get ready for the draft, no draft picks, no first round picks, no second round picks. I want to bring up this interesting thing that kind of just stuck out to me. It doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, but it stuck out to me. From 1973 to 1976, Lawrence McCutcheon was the Rams' feature back. He was a third round, 78th overall pick out of Colorado State in 1972. He played 3 games, didn't get any touches, but he came alive under Chuck Knox in 1973. Jim Bertelsen was his fullback. I think McCutcheon ran for 1,109 yards. Bertelsen ran for 854, and that was Ground Chuck at its finest, right? Between 73 and 76, McCutcheon appeared in four Pro Bowls. He ran for 1,000 yards 3 times. The only time he didn't run for 1,000 yards was in 75. He had 911, but he had a banged up knee. So going into the 1977 draft, with McCutcheon still in his prime, the Rams took Wendell Tyler out of UCLA, third round, 79th overall, and that made sense. Okay, nice backup running back. The Rams had taken Capoletti with the first round pick in 74, but that was because they knew they would need a fullback. That was in the days when you needed a fullback, right? That rookie year for Wendell Tyler, and I just ended up seeing it because you could see it on YouTube. It's some highlights from the 1977 Monday night game against Minnesota at the Coliseum, and Tyler had something like a 44-yard touchdown run. He carried the ball 61 times that season, 317 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he was pretty impressive. Nice backup to McCutcheon. He was a home run hitter. McCutcheon wasn't a home run hitter. He was steady. He was consistent, great vision, but he wasn't a guy that's going to take it to the house. Tyler was a guy, as we all learned, would take it to the house. So the Rams seemed really set at that position, at running back, going into 1978. And in that 1978 draft, with the 20th overall pick, with future Hall of Famer Ozzie Newsome still on the board, you would have thought the Rams maybe would have gone Newsome or gone someplace else because running back was a place of strength. But instead, they drafted Elvis Peacock out of Oklahoma. He was part of that wishbone attack. Peacock, Billy Sims, Joe Washington, Thomas Law. They had all those guys back in the day. That's when Switzer had it grinding there in Soonerville. And the Rams took Peacock and great talent. You can't disregard his highlights and everything on his build, 6'1", 212. But he got hurt in the preseason. He missed all of 78, right? And then really outside of a nice stretch midway through 1980, because he got hurt again in 79, Peacock's career was a bust. And you wonder why the Rams went after him. And it brought 2 things to mind. One is, don't expect your team always to draft what they need. I think last year we were all looking for a cover linebacker. We were all looking for a center. And the Rams, with the 57th pick, drafted Tutu Atwell at a position where you already had Van Jefferson. You already had Cooper Kupp. You had Robert Woods. And so sometimes your team's going to go in another direction. Sometimes it's best athlete available. And that Peacock pick was really a stunner. A lot of people were surprised. I remember being just a tiny bit surprised. But I was cool because Peacock was a home run hitter too. He looked really great. But in fact, for the Rams, that 1978 draft overall was a bust. Besides Peacock, the Rams drafted and got some clicks out of Reggie Doss. He was a nice rotational down lineman for a number of years with the team. Frank Corral was the kicker for 4 seasons. Even briefly in 80 and 81, actually not briefly, in 80 and 81, he did double duty. He was the kicker and the punter. I think he was one of the last guys in the NFL to do that on a regular basis. And they also drafted Ron Smith. Ron Smith had a great touchdown catch in Dallas in 79 playoffs, and he also scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl off the McCutcheon option. But those guys did deliver some clicks, but they never were all-stars. They never were all pros. They were never permanent starters outside of Frank Corral. But of the four, but those were 11 players the Rams drafted in the 78 draft, excuse me there. And four of those players didn't even play a down in the NFL. Three others played a combined total of 20 games. Fat Stan Johnson, who ended up playing about 10 games in the NFL. He got cut by the Rams. He was 46th overall. He was second round 40, and he was a big bust. He was the first time I ever read about a player not being drafted in the first round being considered a bust, and Stan Johnson was a bust. Gus Coppins was drafted in the 12th round in the 78 draft, 330th overall, and he played about 9 games in his career. And Mark Manges, he was the quarterback from Maryland. He was drafted in the 4th round. That's pretty much a premium pick for the Rams these days. And he never played. He played 1 snap in the NFL, but not with the Rams. And the result of that 78 draft, by missing on all those things, and I really don't think it hurt Peacock going down, right? It didn't hurt Peacock going down because he was the number 1, because the Rams already had Tyler, they had McCutcheon, they had balance there. What hurt was that the rest of the draft, number 2 on down to 12, flamed out. I mean, like I said, some clicks out of Reggie Doss, Frank Corral, and Ron Smith, but none of them became starters. And compare that 1978 draft, by 1981, the Rams had a losing record. I think they went 6-10 and missed the playoffs for the first time since in 10 years. By contrast, if you look at that 1977 draft by the Rams, they took 14 players. Not all of them made it, of course, but that 77 draft included outside linebacker Bob Brzezinski, who was talented. He just didn't like what the Rams paid. He had a great run with the Rams. Guy named Nolan Cromwell, sound familiar in Ram lore? Guy named Billy Waddy, who delivered the dagger to the Cowboys, and he was a very competent player for the Rams for a number of years. Wendell Tyler, did he come up big in '79 and the Super Bowl? And then a guy named Vince Ferragamo, who without Vince Ferragamo, we don't go to the Super Bowl in '79. And so that was 3 years after the draft, 77, 78, 79. That 77 draft played a key part. All those players I mentioned, Brzezinski, Cromwell, Waddy, Tyler, Ferragamo, all played a key part in the Rams going to the Super Bowl. When you look at that team also, and by 1980, the Falcons had risen in the West, and they I think they went 12-4. The Rams went 11-5, and the Rams made it back to the playoffs. So when you look at this draft and these drafts, it does matter. You know, you might not have thought Nick Scott was anybody in 2019, but he was our starting safety in the Super Bowl. Look at the clicks the Rams got late in his second season out of Bryson Hopkins in the Super Bowl. Whatever you think of his hands or not, he's got hands of stone. Ben Skoranek was a 7th round pick. And so it's interesting. How your draft goes will tell you in about 2 or 3 years. You shouldn't judge your draft that season, but I think we're going to know about the 2021 draft. I think we've already got a clue about it because Ernest Jones played well too. But by 2023, we're going to know if that draft was a hit or a miss. And so you got to be patient, and it takes time, but also don't expect the team to draft right away from their needs. Now, the Rams were legendary for drafting the best player. They would draft the best player available. And maybe that's why they took Peacock. And maybe that's what they were thinking when they took Tutu Atwell, because we're seeing a lot of anti-Atwell stuff on the internet. A couple of other mock drafts came out, and I want to get to them as we get to the 14-minute mark. We've been keeping track of all the mock drafts. We do produce the big board of all the mock drafts, not ours, but all the mock drafts that we're seeing. So you're familiar with names, positions that are being looked at, and such as we get closer and closer to the end of April and the NFL draft. So you're not caught flat-footed, so you know who these guys are in 2 and 3 years. The NFL Draft Bible produced a 7-round mock draft, which means that they actually included all 8 of the Rams picks. Most mock drafts go 1 round, 2 round, sometimes 3. I did find one that went 4, and I'll share that one with you in a moment. But the NFL Draft Bible came out with this, with the Rams' 3rd round pick, number 103, 104 overall. It had them taking Cole Strange, extremely talented, big, strong guy. He's a guard out of Chattanooga, but he's an FCS guy, right? He's not playing at the upper level. and there's a lot of folks that think he can slip through the cracks to the Rams. But again, this is the consistent thing that we're seeing in all the mock drafts. The mock drafts not only give us names, but what a lot of the draft experts and the draft analysts are saying is the Rams are going offensive line. And wouldn't it be interesting if they drafted a running back, right? If Elvis Peacock reappeared. With their fourth pick, about 141 overall, they took Alabama edge outside linebacker Christopher Allen. He popped up at number 174 in the 5th round. North Dakota left tackle Matt Waletzko. And again, we're seeing the same thing play out with those first 3 picks. We're seeing edge, but mostly what we're seeing is offensive linemen. And that's where everyone is leaning that the Rams are going to go. With the first of the 3 6th-round picks, the Rams draft about 209, 210, 212. They have the Rams taking Pittsburgh cornerback Damari Mathis, Alabama defensive tackle LeBron Ray, Rutgers running back Isaiah Pacheco, and then with the 2 7th-round picks, they have the Rams taking Miami of Ohio hybrid safety, kind of like a Taylor Rapp, Sterling Weatherford, and then Weatherford, and then at the 250 pick, it's around the Skoranek era. They have them taking Rutgers interior lineman Ifeanyi Maje, and that's interesting because he's undersized, but he's an interior lineman, and they think he can get pass rush. You think they're looking for somebody who's an interior lineman and gives pass rush. Rams have had a lot of success with guys like that. I think there's some guy named Aaron Donald who's going to the Hall of Fame who played for the Rams on that one. Interesting thing too, when you look at the complete draft of the NFL Draft Bible's mock draft, I mentioned it last week, or I think I mentioned it maybe yesterday. I can't remember, all the days go in a row. But I mentioned it earlier that the Rams have a tendency to draft 5 times in 10 drafts. The Rams have drafted 2 players from the same school in the same draft. Ebukam and Cup from Eastern Washington being one of the bigger examples. But in this mock draft from Draft Bible, they got the Rams taking Christopher Allen from Alabama and LeBron Ray from Alabama. They also have them taking running back Isaiah Pacheco from Rutgers and interior lineman Ifeanyi Maje from Rutgers at 250. Now, if you think about that too, I believe it was also, there's a kick returner from Rutgers that one of the other mock drafts listed the Rams as being interested in. Moving over to the Pro Football Network, that's not the NFL Network, that's the Pro Football Network. And they kind of had something up the other day that was on Rams Wire in terms of an edge player the Rams should look at. And that's number 104 overall, 3rd round, is Oklahoma edge Nick Bonito. I thought that was his first time his name's popped up here. And then in the 4th round, with the 4th round pick, it's Arizona's 8 tackle Kellen Diesch. And Kellen Diesch is interesting because his name popped up in the 3rd round in one of the other mock drafts. So it's interesting when you see similar names pop up as well as similar schools and just stuff to keep an eye on. All those names will be added to the draft board that we're going to produce, that we put out from the Ram Cave on Friday. And again, the interesting thing here in all these drafts, right, we were talking about it, is in the 10 years that Les Snead has been drafting players, he has not drafted a player from USC, or no, he's drafted one player from USC, TJ McDonald, and he has not drafted anybody from UCLA. Really fascinating when you think that the Rams have been home for 5 years and they haven't reached out to anybody. Kind of lets you know where USC and UCLA football rank when it comes to the next level. As I said at the top of the show, as we get towards wrap up here at the 19th minute, is the official 2022 season starts March 16th, and the Rams will have to be under the cap by then. They're depending on how you want to break it down, some will say they're 13 mil, 21 mil over the cap. But again, the way Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, the way a lot of their contracts are structured, as well as some of the others, maybe even Stafford, expect them to be restructured. And so for money to be spread out to create more money now. Also expect the possibility of a familiar name being released. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not being Nostradamus here. I'm just saying be ready, because it could sting. And keep an eye on Tyler Higbee. I think they're going to bring him back, but it's going to be interesting to see what the Rams do. Also holding things up is word on Whitworth. Andrew Whitworth needs to let the team know if he's going to come back. And I'm sure he's taking every moment he can between now and the 16th. And I'm sure he will. There's nothing nefarious happening here. But between the restructures and him coming off the books, because his thing is 16 rocks that counts against the books, that's 16 mil. And then you work in the restructures. The Rams, if that all comes together, the Rams could be in a really good position, not only to keep their free agents. It would be nice to have Von Miller back, even though he wants to come back. It would be nice. I think it would be. You're not going to give him a break the bank. It's going to be all incentive because he's coming back probably midseason. I'd like to see OBJ come back. But there's also the players, the offensive line, and other players that you think the Rams have to look at. They got to re-sign Matt Gay as well, although he's a restricted free agent. And then there's players on the market. I throw names out there like Connor Williams and others, and that offensive lineman market's going to be heating up because right now Tampa Bay, they've lost all three of their interior linemen. Ali Marpet retired. Alex Kappa's a free agent. Ryan Jensen's a free agent. And so these linemen are going to be hot commodities, and they're going to be expensive. Also, Cordell Patterson. I'd love to see the Rams give Cordell Patterson, because of his versatility, running and catching the ball. I'd love to see the Rams give him a shot. Well, that's about it right now. We're at the 21-minute mark, and that's kind of where I wanted to be. If you like the show, please hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and I'd love to get it posted, and I'll engage with you because I love talking Ram football. As I said, you can go to my website, joetarozzi.com. All my books are on Amazon. I've written 2 football books. This is probably the most popular one. High school football book called Tangent Dreams. Got great reviews. You could read the reviews even before you buy, and such. But keep supporting us. And again, we are not far from, but we are building to doing this in a dual way where we're doing it here and we're also doing it on podcast. All right, folks. Thanks a lot. God bless. Have a great week.